On July 18th, 2020, NASA launched a new vessel. 6 astronauts boarded the Goliath, and I set off to prepare for the first human colony on the moon. The preparations were expected to take next year, but the vessels carried on for 6 months and an additional food passed of an expectation in case of an emergency. Radio communication was possible only to the side of the moon facing the Earth. The astronauts were told to stay in this area to maintain the radio contact. The astronauts had landed on the eastern border of the Sirentas. This lunar mare was largely covered in basalt and had held a few craters, making it perfect for colonization. The goal of the astronauts was simple: map the area of the colonization and blueprint the construction of the buildings. The only real danger on the moon was meteors striking it, as the moon's devoid of the atmosphere. An electronic journal of the day's events were to be sent back to NASA, along with any interesting photos and videos, although it was to be seen if anything exciting would happen. It was the moon after all. The first few months of the journal were fairly normal. The astronauts were right on schedule with the predicted progress. They wasted no time in a blueprint in the area. Everything was normal in the town as it would be in the future town. In a grocery store, a school, a hospital, among other things, of course, these supplies would indeed be sent to the other vessels. It wasn't their mission to build anything, other than the 17th of September that year. The daily report had not come, and it was speculated that it was forgotten. But it didn't come till the next day either. Radio communication was not successful within the astronauts, as this was the only met with static. The radio tower was seen working perfectly. It seemed that the astronauts were simply not in range with it. Several missings of the video were later recovered from the site. The following is a description of each video. The astronauts were told to label their videos by date, using numbers following the date if more than one video was recorded that day. The first video was labeled appropriately as September 16th, 2020, and it was around 10 minutes long, and it was mostly spent examining the small craters near the border of the mare. Near the end of the video, the astronaut talks about hearing scratching noises from the crater, but this wasn't audible. The journal was sent to NASA on the 16th of September. It did not mention the noise. The second video was labeled also appropriately September 17th, 2020. This video was focused around the craters, specifically the nearby vessel of the crater. This exceptionally large crater, over 9 miles across, the mile deep, and the plan was eventually to build a bridge across the crater. This video was roughly the same length as the previous video. The astronauts began to make notes of the crater, then the scratching sound is heard again. Only this time, however, it is quite audible and appears that they were coming from the basin of the crater. The sound becomes so loud that it irritates the astronauts. One of the men looks over down the edge to find the source of the sound. The force is unseen by the camera suddenly pulls into the astronaut into the crater. His screams are heard briefly before the camera was cut short. Then the third and final video is labeled Code 7700, please help. The date is unknown, but it could be assumed that it was probably the next day. It begins with an astronaut in an oxygen tent, taking the camera, and he explains in a calm voice that he is unable to contact the radio. He also explains about how 2 of the astronauts have been horribly slaughtered. At this point, tears start to roll down his face, but he continues to calm down, and the scratching noise in the previous video is heard suddenly and sharply. The camera is then knocked to adjustment on the wall in the tent, and we listen to the astronaut pleading, followed by a heavy thump. The man continues to plead and cry out for help, stating that he can't breathe. The camera is completely turned away from the man, as it's not seeing anyone attacking him. We see blood begin to splatter on the adjacent wall, and the man continues to scream for help and is now completely bawling. Blood splatters against the wall for a second time alongside, and the sound of bones snapping and flesh being torn from them. His pleas for help suddenly stop and are just reduced to insane screaming and crying. As blood splatters against the wall again, a bit of brown liquid in the mix of bright red liquid, and the tearing sound had since been replaced with that of squishing and sloshing. The only sound the man makes now is a quiet death rattle. Suddenly the man goes silent, and several of his organs are tossed in the near direction of the wall. Coincidentally, the night of September 18th was a red moon. None of these bodies of the astronauts from Goliath were fully recovered, but colonization of the moon had been postponed until further notice. The team is sent to investigate the radio communication problems that the astronauts have been having to refuse to talk to the public. One of the 4-man repair team, 2 have taken their own life since returning to Earth, while the 3 videos were recovered. A photograph was also recovered, but it is unknown to what the photograph is. And that, my little pretties, was Red Moon, a outer space creepypasta written by Avenging Angel. My final thoughts on the story? Alright, I don't really know when this was, this is actually, probably was written, I think back in 2000, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something. This actually talked about the future of, the red moon and about the astronauts dying and all that. I mean, I know it says 2020 right here. I don't know if it was edited or not, or if this is basically someone telling, basically the future of it or something. Which I think that could be, possible, but yet again, I really don't know. I first discovered this story about maybe a few, not too long ago actually, maybe a week or so ago, and I decided to give this one a read, and I mean, it's a good story. I was looking for some decent, sci-fi, stories, like some sci-fi creepypastas. Like, I mean, this one was pretty good actually. Like, basically, this involves astronauts going to moon to try to, build, colonization on the moon, but ended up getting, killed all of a sudden. Well, one man dies and the other people who returned to Earth took their own lives and all that. I mean, it's actually pretty freaky, come to think of this story. Now, I'm gonna say right now, I never really heard of this story until, well, not too long ago. So I actually did take a look at some narrations of this story, like Little Ricky 29, Master of Creepypastas, Mr. Gruesome. I mean, I checked Dave's narration of it as well as Kilowa Hawk narration of this story. And so I decided, you know what, I will go ahead and, check the story out for my own self and, go from there. So I'm going to say it's pretty good. I mean, it's a very freaky story, I'm not going to lie. I mean, like, when I first saw this story, I honestly was very surprised of how it all went out. Like, it's pretty scary. Like, I mean, whatever it was that killed, one of the astronauts, I had a feeling that it might be some sort of alien or something. I really don't know, but that's actually just my guess personally. Like, I mean, I never actually really took a look at this story till now. And I mean, it's a pretty good concept. I'm not gonna lie, it was really good. So anyways, I actually decided to take a look at this story. So yeah, here it is. I decided, you know what, I'll take a look at this story because it seemed to be pretty interesting. Like, this is actually a sci-fi creepypasta, which is pretty good actually. I really do like how the sentence structure went out as well as the good grammar and all that. I mean, it's a good pasta. Like, I mean, it's a really good pasta for what this one is. It's a really good, well-made pasta. I have never heard of this pasta until just now. Like, I mean, it's a good story. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It was a pretty good story. Like, it was. I honestly just. I gotta say, I actually found this story to be, quite amazing. It's well made in detail. It's awesome. really do like how the concept of the story went out. It's absolutely amazing of how well written this was written. Now, I actually decided to give this one a read because, it seemed to be pretty interesting enough. So, yeah, that's why I decided to sit here and, go through with it because it seemed to be, pretty interesting. Now, I have to say I really do find this one to be it's an enjoyable curry pasta. Although I can't seem to find anything that I did not like about this story. I can't say anything what I didn't like about it because I honestly really enjoyed it all. It's a good creepypasta. It was definitely well made. It's definitely a good story. I recommend you guys checking it out. And I honestly found this story to be amazing. And I do find it to be. Oh, pardon me, I'm a bit tired, but I still find it to be amazing that it's like a sci-fi themed story, which is pretty good because I'm interested in some sci-fi stories depending on what it is, but this one actually was well good. Now, I do know another sci-fi story I hope to narrate someday, which is the one Space Voyager did called Relics of the Past. I know he had that on hiatus for a while, and I think he's gonna rewrite it. I'm not too sure, but I think that's from what I did hear. He's gonna do that. But yet again, if Space Voyager manages to, see this video, I highly recommend he, check the story out, and I suggest that he could give this one a read. I might suggest to him to give this one a read. And I'm going to tell him right now, if he sees his video, that he will not be disappointed. So, I guess, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Like I'm going to say, Avenging Angel did a great job with this story. This was fantastic, well made, pretty awesome. That's sci-fi themed, so that's gonna be bonus points for this story. Anyways, like I'm gonna say right now, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be since I'm giving this a bonus, I'll give this one 15 out of 10. I'm giving it a 15 out of 10 because it's a sci-fi themed story, and it was really beautifully well written. There was definitely a lot of time and effort into it, and I really like how it's sci-fi themed. Like, I've been really interested in this since it had sci-fi themed related stuff, although it was a little horror, but mostly sci-fi because it takes place in outer space, and it basically talks about the outer space, which is pretty neat. So, with that being said, it gets a 15 out of 10 because I gave it bonus points for that. So, what did you guys think about this story? I mean, did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video and roll the outro because I'm out.